Okay, so I live in the greater Memphis area. I am a Memphis native. I grew up here. Like most of my adult life has been in Japan, but before that, I was living in the Memphis metropolitan area. This is where I'm from. This is what I know. And Memphis gets a bad rap. We get the rap for just being known for two things: bullets and barbecue. Great barbecue, but you might get shot going to get it. And I think that is unfairly thrown upon us. Well, let me just say, I know crime is a problem here. It is. I'm not hiding from that. There is a crime problem here, but that also belies the fact that there's a lot of potential here in Memphis too. Like Memphis has a lot of potential. We're in a centralized location right in the middle of America. A lot of distribution going here. I think if we worked on our infrastructure, you can get like more films here and more things to go on here if you have the right people in charge. But only thing you hear is crime. Crime, crime, crime. It's bad. Crime, crime, crime. And like once again, I'm not saying it's not bad. But Memphis right now has the potential to turn the corner, in my opinion. It really does. And we have a new Memphis mayor, Paul Young, who was recently elected and sworn in. I personally reserve praise and judgment to after you do something. Like you got potential, but you got to show me something. That's just me. I don't go off the deep end praising anybody. You got to show me something. And if I'm being honest, I got a lot of questions about who this man people is. I don't know a lot about the man's background. And when it comes to crime in Memphis, to all Memphians, listen to the sound of my voice, I have to ask you, who do you blame for the high crime rate? Whose fault is it? Crime is happening. Who do you blame for the crime rate being high? And look, man, all politics are local. Like local politics makes a difference. They affect your life. But a lot of this is shared blame. Like nobody wants to share the blame for the problems. They just want to shuffle it off and point fingers at everybody else. When there's enough shared blame to go around. And I ask that honestly because I think we go to the usual suspects and say, well, the police department's not doing their job. And since I've been here, I've heard like the typical argument that the reason why there's a crime problem is this is a democratically ran city. The Democrats are in charge, and that's why there's high crime rate. In any city that you have a Democrat leader, the crime rate is hard. It's high. That is some of people's rationale for this. Well, you vote Democrats, then you get high crime rate. You guys know that cities can't make laws? They can't. Look it up. A city cannot make a law. Laws come from the state level. So if your rationale for Memphis having high crime is because it's a democratically ran city from the Democrats, this is a red state. Laws come from on high, from the state level. It wasn't the city of Memphis that made it easier for people to get guns. That came down from the state. Dead ass. Yeah, leadership can be a Democrat, but a lot of the money in Memphis are Republicans. Like, who among you think that what Fred Smith say don't hold weight? Who among you think what the Memphis Chamber of Commerce say, who lean a majority Republican? Word doesn't matter. If you want to be honest, dog, a lot of the problems with the Memphis Police Department can be traced back to when Democratic leaders were taking suggestions from Republicans about how to run the police department like a business, and they implemented that dumbass 4.6 pay cut to police officers. Like already you got these folks doing way too much, and then you're going to do a pay cut, and you wonder why Memphis doesn't have police officers. If I'm not mistaken, at one point in time, man, Collierville, Germantown, these little municipalities outside of Memphis, those police departments were making more than Memphis with a denser population and more crime. Like, yo, so you got folks on the outside of Memphis doing less work, getting more money, but the people you asking to deal with this quote unquote crime wave are getting less. Make it make sense. The whole state government has to work together. So when it comes to crime, my question is once again, who are you blaming? Now, I'm a firm believer if the police mess up, you should hold the police accountable. However, I do feel like in Memphis that people that try to shift the blame to the police department are a little short-sighted and just really trying to deflect from other things in the city being off. So my question to you is, what do you want the police to do? And when you say you want the police to do their job, what do you think their job is? Which leads to the obvious next question, who is accountable for them doing their job? Who is the person that you're going to look at? Who gets the blame? And the obvious answer is the police chief. The good old chief of police, which in Memphis right now is C.J. Davis. That's the police chief. And right now, there's a fight for her to be reappointed. Now, here's the thing, guys. I'm not out here riding for the man. I'm not out here saying that I'm endorsing Miss Davis to be the police chief. She has flaws. I can't say that there's nothing she could have done better. It's my understanding that she's been the police chief for around 2 years, and there was rumors that she could not fire anybody because former Mayor Strickland didn't want her to ruffle feathers. I don't know if that's true or not, but that is the rumor. However, there are policy things she could have did to make Memphis better. If I'm not mistaken, there's a no pursue policy in Memphis, which means that cops can't pursue you if you take off. You need to change that. That is a policy change that you could make, right? However, I will say, I do see a lot of arrows being thrown her way by some people. I'm like, you asking about her job? What about your job? What are you going to do? Most notably, the chairman of the Memphis City Council. This man been out here slinging arrows at Miss Davis. I'm like, bro, I need to know your plan. What's homie name? Chairman J.B. Smiley Jr.? This man been out here on a tour saying he's not going to be a rubber stamp to appoint Miss Davis because he has to ask the question, has crime went down? Do you feel like the crime is in control? And I'm like, brother man, what are you going to do? Like, if you're going to pose that question, you need to have like a plan out there. And if you have that, Mr. Smiley, cool, I need to see it. I searched your Facebook, I searched online, I couldn't find it. So please make it more visible if you do have it. But I need to know your plan, buddy. What is the Memphis City Council going to do? What ordinance are you going to pass to make crime better? Like, what are your suggestions? It's my understanding that the city has taken away the hiring process from the police department. Like, the city is over hiring police. So once again, who's to blame? Because one thing I did see that the Memphis City Council did was give themselves health care for the rest of their lives. So one thing the city council is over, that you guys don't know, they're over the budget. They control the purse strings. So all this crappy infrastructure, I got questions to the city council. Hey man, what you gonna do to get these potholes fixed? And don't you think maybe before you give yourself health insurance for the rest of your life, maybe you should do something about these potholes first? Dead ass. Or is that your crime bill? Look, man, if we keep these streets super shitty, then criminals can't get away. Hey, maybe that's it. Seriously, man, the Memphis City Council passed the ordinance that gives them folks health insurance for the rest of their life. I'm sorry. They pay for the health insurance. Only 30% of it. But the other 70% is subsidized through tax dollars. So these folks can be on the city council for 5 years and then get health insurance for the rest of their life. I just hope you made that for the police department too. I just hope they can do that too. If you can get health insurance for the rest of your life, I'm hoping that the Memphis City Police Department, part of that deal was they get health insurance too for the rest of their life. So I'm just looking around Memphis like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? What do we want? Why are you asking Miss Davis what she gonna do? Because once again, Shared blame, buddy. Shared blame. And what you do need is consistency. Now, once again, I'm not out here riding for the man, and term limits are needed. But you got to remember, like Miss Davis was actually appointed under the last mayor, who was Strickland, and the rumors are that Strickland did not allow her to fire anybody. You're gonna have to give her some time to see if she's gonna put some more of her people in place and make some reforms. That's why I'm saying we need some consistency. Like, if I'm gonna blame you, I need to know how much to blame you for. Dead ass. But one thing I can say about Miss Davis that impressed me is, as we are at the year mark of the Tyre Nichols death and all those riots, all those protests, what made this one different was Miss Davis actually addressed it. She didn't hide from it. She took decisive action, and that matters. Because once again, dog, can we have just an honest conversation right now? Just an honest, nuanced conversation. Excessive police force is wrong. Nobody likes excessive police force. But sometimes excessive force is needed when you're a police officer. Like in the case of Tyre Nichols, that Scorpion unit jumped out, beat that man's ass, killed him. That didn't warrant that. That did not warrant a beating. Now, you can make the argument he didn't comply, but non-compliance shouldn't have ended up in death in that situation, right? Now, contrast that to those officers in Uvalde when that madman came in with an AR-15 shooting all the little babies, and the police just waited out there. Like, violence was necessary at that point. But like I keep telling y'all, in most cases, man, these police, a lot of them just scared. Like they don't want to be in danger, right? So the people ass they really need to be kicking, they don't do it. Dylan Roof needed his ass kicked, bro. His ass didn't get kicked. Like the guy around Memphis that was a serial killer, he should have got his ass kicked. Ass didn't get kicked. Didn't have no scratches when he went to the police department, dog, for various reasons. But if you're a police officer, like nobody's saying that sometimes you don't have to use force. It's just the unwarranted use of force is what people are mad about. And when it happens, you got to call it out. However, Miss Davis did. That's why those protesters didn't ball over, because anytime black folks protest, people feel like, yeah, they're finna burn it down. I ain't never seen no black folks protest the Capitol or try to overthrow the U.S. government, but whatever. But that ain't the case. What black folks want and all people want is decisive action and make sure their voices are heard. Miss Davis did that. Now, and this is not an endorsement, but if the rumors were true, and I can see them being true, you got to think Miss Davis is an outsider coming from Atlanta, coming right to the police department, an outsider firing everybody. It could ruffle some feathers. You got to think about it, man. A lot of these upper echelon people probably done been in the department 20, 30 years. Incompetent, but been there 20 or 30 years, and they're part of the community and part of these churches. If you go in there and fire everybody, it's going to look bad, right? It really does. The optics don't look good. But, like, who do you know that comes in from out of town and don't fire nobody? Like, seriously, who don't bring their own people? So if she does get a second term, like, this is the time to do it, to really make some reforms and make yourself heard, if that was the case. And as we hit the year anniversary of Tyre Nichols' death, the main officers, we got to ask, like, who is responsible for them? Is it just the police department? No, it's not. And once again, we got to have shared blame. We got to ask the question, who was over hiring that police officer? It's to my knowledge, he was a former jailer who hired him on the police department. It's also, to my knowledge, dude was kicking prisoners' ass in jail. But once again, the hiring process has been taken out the hands of the police department. So, can I blame them? Yes, but how much can I blame them? I also got to blame the city and the city council. It has to be shared blame here. You can't ask for top-notch employees and give these gutter basement prices, bro. And as a city council, dude, you should not be giving yourself anything, any kind of raise or any kind of benefit without getting the police department or the fire department they benefits first, bro. Dead ass. It just doesn't work. It doesn't look good. You got a part-time job. Most of you folks on city councils, man, y'all got dual income coming in for a part-time job. Now you got health care for life. Once again, I hope you did that for the fire department and the police department. But you can't do that and claim to be tough on crime if you ain't paying the police officers. Shared blame. We can't just point the fingers at them. And also, are we talking about the Scorpion unit? Who in their right mind would let like young cops be on a specialized unit? Where was the leadership on that? Like, that's something Miss Davis could have did. Even though you couldn't fire somebody, you could have made sure that it was like well-skilled officers with those young folks. Now, I know a lot of these cats were 30 and under. One of them was 24. But a lot of these cats are around 30. It ain't going to be right unless you got some old people out there, some good cops showing them the way. That was always a recipe for disaster, bro. Now, here's the thing, man. I'm not saying that I have all the answers. But one thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to overlook the problems in the place I live. Just keep talking about national issues. So, I'm just telling everybody now, you're going to hear me talk a lot about Memphis issues because I'm living here. I see some problems. I see some flaws. And I think it's on me as a person, as a podcaster, as somebody who likes to get civically active, whatever I am, to try to make a change. Be more involved. Do something, dog. Not just talk about it. Do something. Like, one thing about me in Japan, anybody who knows me over there can tell you, dog, I was active. Like, any social issue that I thought was unjust or wrong, I was there. When it came to, like, pride parades, I was there. When it came to Black Lives Matter, I was there. Like, I'm there, bro. I'm riding for rights. And it ain't gonna be no difference since I'm here in America, dog. So, yeah, I see some problems in Memphis. I see some crime. I'm not going to just talk about the problems. I'm going to start trying to get some solutions to what I think should happen, too, in Memphis. So there it is. And that's the Common Knowledge Podcast, man. Updating this thing weekly, man. Stay tuned. And, yo, share my podcast. I'm not saying I got all the answers. I'm not saying I got everything right. But discussion needs to happen. And just like all my crap, guys, just like it all, I don't need your approval.